Welcome to PM in the PM. This is the podcast where I take a recent event and look at how it links to the ACCA performance management syllabus areas. Today's episode is called Why ACCA Students Should Study for 16 Hours a Day. I'll focus on PM as that's my area of expertise, but the concepts apply to all of the ACCA applied skills and strategic professional papers. I saw an article recently about how long executives work, and it was about, on average, 63 hours per week. And it got me thinking about how long PM students should study. And after giving it some thought, I decided the proper answer is 16 hours a day, or 112 hours per week, so almost double what those executives are reporting. Now, please don't panic. I'm not suggesting that you survive on coffee and keep your eyelids propped open with matchsticks. What I'm saying is this. As an ACCA performance management student, you should always be studying. Everyday life is basically a series of live case studies in the PM syllabus. So let's dive in and have a look at some examples. The first example I'm going to look at is, let's say you're going for a haircut. So picture yourself in the salon, in the barber's. Most people will be thinking about whether the haircut will suit them or not. But you as a PM student, your brain should be buzzing with performance analysis. What are the KPIs that those stylists have to achieve? Is it something about the number of clients per hour they see? Is it the average spend per customer? Perhaps they are really PM savvy and they use the balanced scorecard. So there might be financial measures where they're looking at perhaps the prices covering fixed costs like rent and variable costs like hair dye. Perhaps there's some customer measures around repeat bookings, maybe reviews that are left online. And maybe internal processes will include things like the time taken per haircut, maybe wastage of the products that they use. And learning and growth, our staff continually improving and training so they can offer the latest styles. Maybe even there's an opportunity to think about variance analysis. Perhaps you are expecting your haircut to take 30 minutes and it takes 45. Well, there's an efficiency variance. What happens there? And maybe benchmarking kicks in. How does this salon compare to the one down the road? And finally, maybe you're thinking about the reward systems. Do the stylists get paid a bonus per customer, or do they get paid a commission on product sales? So instead of just sitting there having your hair cut, you can still enjoy it, but just think, what parts of the PM syllabus have you studied recently and how might they apply in that scenario, in that situation you find yourself in? For my second example, I'm just going to look at what happens online. Now, I notice whenever I am looking at something on YouTube, I get a lot of adverts for the ACCA. And I'm sure if you've ever looked up something, you find that you get chased around the internet by that company or by that product. And that's not a coincidence. That's CRM and big data working together. Again, these are both parts of the PM syllabus. The CRM, there's a customer relationship management system sitting behind that, which is centralizing all this data and is being used to pursue you around the internet. They probably also have some KPIs in the organizations around their marketing, around things like click-through rates, conversion rates, customer lifetime value. And they'll be using big data analytics, maybe using predictive modeling to help forecast or predict which customers are more likely to buy and which are less likely to buy. But with anything online, there becomes also this balance around risk and control. So under GDPR, there's also requirements on these companies to report data breaches and things like that. So they would have invested heavily on how they protect that data, because if they don't, they're going to fall foul of privacy and protection rules that are in place, depending on which jurisdiction they're based in. Next, we're going to look at pollution and the environment. Every so often you will see a report of maybe an oil spill, or maybe a company has been fined because they have polluted a river or a lake or something like that. And environmental management accounting could come into play there. And you could be thinking about how that company might measure its environmental impact. You might think they're using input-output analysis, so looking at the energy, the water, the raw materials that go into their system and what they can measure that comes out, and everything else is considered waste, and that waste has a value. It could be they're using an activity-based costing approach, trying to identify the drivers of the pollution and that environmental harm so they can then manage that driver of that cost. If you see it in the news, there's likely to be some regulatory costs such as taxes or fines or penalties that may come into play, along with reputation costs. Are customers now going to boycott that brand? It may be there's an environmental initiative that's a government scheme And maybe you're thinking about value for money and the 3 E's, the economy, the efficiency and the effectiveness, and how those things are coming into play in that government scheme. So next time you see something in the news around pollution, around the environment, or around some sort of environmental initiative, again, think like a PM expert. How do things you've learnt in the syllabus apply to that? And the last example I'm going to look at is budget. Now at work, you probably hear the word budget from time to time. Next time you do, I want your PM brain to perk up. Think about that budget that you have at work. How was it created? Is it a bottom up or a top down? Maybe it's a mix, some sort of hybrid approach. And you'll recall from when you've studied this in PM, the bottom up approach increases ownership, but tends to take a bit longer. The top down approach tends to be faster, but is less motivating. How do you feel? How do your colleagues feel about the budget you have? Do people around you own that budget? Do they buy into that budget? Do they feel like it's theirs, or is it imposed from above? We've just said how important ownership is because that drives performance. It may be a budget fails to be met time and time again, and it could be due to ownership because they haven't been involved in the budget setting process. What rewards are in place at your work? Are staff incentivised fairly? Are their bonuses linked to factors in the budget they can control or not? Controllability is a real important area when it comes to rewarding staff, because if they're rewarded on things that they can't control, the reward system has failed already. And is that budget used for performance measurement? Is it used to track actual against planned performance? Maybe use variance analysis at work. And when variances are identified, are corrective actions put in place? So once again, with your PM brain on, even a casual conversation about budget is an exercise in responsibility accounting, in motivation theory, and in control systems. So why does this approach work? Why should you embrace 16 hours a day study mindset? Well, I think there are 3 big benefits. The first one is you'll develop neural connections. Neural connections are how the cells in your brain, the nerve cells, communicate with each other. And every time you connect PM to real life, you reinforce those neural pathways. And that means your recall is faster, you'll have a deeper understanding of things, you'll be able to give more quality answers in the exams. Basically, you are wiring your brain for success. And this leads on to application skills. The examiners repeatedly tell us that PM is not about definitions, it's about application. If you are studying PM and you're analysing salons, you're analysing adverts, you're analysing the news, you're analysing things you hear at work, because you now are looking at all of these things through a PM lens, you're practicing your exam technique for months before the exam. I said at the open that this wasn't just about PM, it's transferable across all of the exams, I think. If you're doing FM, things like pricing, investment appraisal, risk management. If you're doing AA or AAA, internal controls, audit risks. With SBL, you'll be thinking like the leader of the organisation. How are they taking this information in and making decisions? And of course, if it works for PM, it's going to work for APM. So this 16 hours a day study habit multiplies its value across the ACCA qualification. So here's the truth. Yes, if you study 16 hours a day, every haircut, every advert, every headline is another case study. And the trick is just to notice it, just to raise your awareness, connect it to syllabus and let those connections build. And when exam day comes, you won't just be remembering definitions, you'll remember those situations, you'll remember that haircut, you'll remember the advert, and then you'll be able to apply what you've learnt and what you understand, and you'll get more application marks. And you can wear this with pride. So when someone asks you, how many hours a day do you study? Perhaps you could grin and say, about 16 hours a day. So thanks for tuning in to PM in the PM. I hope you found this episode informative. I'd love to hear your feedback and obviously share this among colleagues, either who are sitting PM or any of the other ACCA exams, because I do think this is applicable across the spectrum. If you're looking to study PM next, please reach out, check out my courses. If you've previously failed PM and you're stuck, do reach out, because I do have a course specifically at students who have studied PM before. But until next time, this is Richard Guyver signing off.